Welcome back to Racing Rundown here on YouTube. I'm Eric DeCoster. In this Kentucky Derby profile, we'll be taking a look at Pioneer of Medina, one of the last few horses into this year's Kentucky Derby field. He was on the outside looking in for what felt like a very long time. I mean, it was truly weeks where he was kind of sitting as that 21st horse in. There was a moment where he looked like he was the 20th horse in following a defection of Morello. He became 20, and then Classic Causeway got thrown back into the mix. So Pioneer of Medina back to 21st, one out. Todd Pletcher said he probably wouldn't run him as an also eligible. So once again, waiting, and then finally on Sunday, Chad Brown officially pulled early voting. It was kind of thought he would, but he officially pulled early voting this Sunday to run in the Preakness. So now it's Pioneer of Medina, who will ultimately be the 19th horse in, following another defection of Unoho, but he is safely in for sure. Todd Pletcher gets 3 in the Derby again. This one's going to be a bit of a price, as we'll discuss. We'll go through his 4 races, his last 4 races. Brief, quick lowdown on his first 2 starts. Just kind of doing things he didn't really want to do. Sprinting on the dirt, his first effort didn't go too well. Ran all right on the synthetic in his second career start at Gulfstream, but didn't show much. But here, this is start number 3. Hot once more following the loss, and then really looked quite good in this effort at Tampa, and this will be going 2 turns, going a mile and 40 yards. And he broke really well. He sets right off to the lead from here. That's something he's done in a lot of races, and he's just going to set up shop on the inside of this rival. It's obviously, we know Todd Pletcher does like to ship his runners to Tampa, his younger horses who need a race, but he doesn't want to necessarily get tangled up with all the tough runners down at Gulfstream. So he puts him here, and you can see he's pretty on the bid. He's really pulling early on. He's a horse that has much more early speed than a typical Todd Pletcher horse has, and it's not like it's the sprinter speed that he's been able to stretch 2 turns. No, it's just a controlled but naturally quick early foot that he has used to really put himself in favorable positions throughout his career. As you see, they're not going too slow. The leader is really rolling along, and Pioneer Medina's kind of pulled himself to be within a half length. And it's a long break back to the rest, but he's sitting a confident trip. And right here, as they approach the far turn, just inside the half mile pull about to be, he goes to the lead, and he's doing it easy. You'll see how easily he outclasses this field on this day. You'd think at this point he's about to win by 10. He does not really actually win by that much. They do come to him pretty quickly towards the end. But what I really like from this effort is the improvement he showed. Todd Pletcher's horses have, especially I feel like the last 5 years, and it might just be me, but it seems like they all just need more time. I mean, it's no secret that his Derby horses in general, the horses that make it to the Kentucky Derby, typically need a couple of races before they really figure out how to run. But just in general, his horses have seemed to do that. And Pioneer of Medina definitely needed his first 2 races. And as you can see, getting a little green down the lane, getting a little lost, but nevertheless putting it all together. Really impressed with this effort to break his maiden. From that point, he was shipped to Fairgrounds. Todd Pletcher usually likes to ship in some allowance runners because Fairgrounds often has a non-winners a 2 condition for the 3-year-olds throughout their calendar, their meet. And this was one spot that he liked for this horse following that maiden win at Tampa. And sure enough, there he goes. He sets off to the lead again. He's not like this super quick horse from the gate, but he just once again is always putting himself naturally into the game early on. And obviously that'll be very interesting when that plays out in the Kentucky Derby. But for now, he's on the lead. The horses behind him, especially the one at the rail that's taken back in the white silks, and the one on the outside, the 5 Underhill's Tab in the orange cap, those Spendthrift silks, they're both coming out off of sprint races. And yet he's found himself in front of them in the early stages. And also in here is Stellar Tap, who's sitting in 4th right now in the red cap. That was a horse who was actually favored in one of the graded stakes for 2-year-olds last year, I believe, the Iroquois. So this is not necessarily the worst field in the world. The Pioneer of Medina, he's rattled off very even, steady, favorable fractions. 24 and 1/5 seconds for the quarter, 48 and 2 for the half. He is doing it all in his own mind, and he's doing it quite easily at this point. Florent Giroux's aboard here in this start. It's been interesting, actually. The rider for the Kentucky Derby was just announced. It'll be Joe Bravo, and he'll be the 7th rider that Pioneer Medina's at, or the 6th rider, excuse me, in 6 different races. So a very interesting path to this Kentucky Derby in terms of riders. Right here, Pioneer of Medina, looks like he might be relinquishing the lead to Kevin's Folly there on the outside, but he just fights on. Really, Florent Giroux had not asked him. Once he does ask him, he responds very well to the prompts. He digs in, shows more, holds off all comers and puts them away to a very impressive win. So now he's 2 for 2, and honestly, after you burn through two straight victories as a early 3-year-old, you have no other options but to go up the stakes company, which is exactly what Pioneer of Medina would do from here. So back to Fairgrounds, back to what worked last time, and here he finds himself in the Risen Star, which at the time many were calling what could be the best Derby prep of the schedule, and from here definitely went on to be the case. As you can see, once again breaks well, but here it looks like there might be a couple other speed types. You have Bodoc to the outside, eventual Sunland Derby winner, slow down Andes deep in the track. Papa Cap from the rail showed some good speed. There goes Epicenter to set the pace, but our Pioneer of Medina has now set up some excellent position right in between rivals at first. Now he's going to go sit and press that leader, but he's in good shape. And as many of you, I imagine, are familiar, especially if you watched our preview on Epicenter, he really was handed this race because no one went with him early on. But Pioneer of Medina, you'll see why he's able to run so well at big odds of 33-1, as you'll see on the ticker. Simply because he was sitting off of a favorable pace, and it clearly worked out for him. He's put himself in the right position here. He's tracking well further back in this field, and you'll see them close up and eventually pass Pioneer of Medina later, Smile Happy and Zandon. But I mean, before we get into the stretch run here, Epicenter, the future Louisiana Derby winners in front of him. Papa Cap was a grade 2 winner as a juvenile. He's on his inside. Further back is eventual Sunland Derby winner, Slow Down Andy. Your Bluegrass 1-2, Smile Happy and Zandon. Your Lexington and Jeff Ruby Stakes runner-up. Lexington winner and Jeff Ruby Stakes runner-up, I should say, Tawnyport. I mean, there's some serious racehorses in here. Right now, Pioneer of Medina is kind of backing up on the turn. You think, oh, his day is done. He's flattened out. Epicenter's giving him the split. He's gone. Nobody's getting him on this day. But once again, you really just like how well Pioneer of Medina bears down, sheds off one challenger, eventually passed up by two very talented runners in Zandon and Smile Happy. He's going to relinquish second and third, but he's going to run a very good fourth given his first effort against these kinds of horses. He fought in gamely, and once again, he kind of battled Zandon to the line very impressively. I'm actually just noticing that now. He really stuck it to Zandon late. I'm going to go back just so you can kind of really see what I'm talking about. We'll go a little there. You see, past the 8th pole, Zandon's passed him. Smile Happy's passed him. I mean, they have every right to put him away. But Pioneer of Medina puts in some fight here, and honestly, kind of just misses that bob for third on the line, and of course beating a couple other good horses. So that's really impressive to me. His ability to fight and hold position, and apparently gallop out really well. He's coming back to Epicenter there. So obviously, following that effort, you need one more Derby prep. He's only on 5 Derby points right now, so he's going to need some help. And gets away well here. We're in the Louisiana Derby. It's a much easier field than the one he just faced in the Risen Star. Epicenter returns. Zozos towards the inside, who also runs in the Kentucky Derbies there. One thing that's really interesting is Pioneer of Medina, the pressure was put on, though. Zozos has gone out to the lead. He's a naturally quick horse, and Pioneer of Medina outfoot Epicenter to the front. And I'm not sure if that was always the plan for this horse or if that was a spur of the moment kind of deal with the rider. And he said, hey, I think we need to take it to him this time because we didn't last time and it got us beat. So now he's in front and or in second, he's in front of Epicenter. I should be more specific there. And sitting that same exact trip he did sit in that Risen Starts, literally same exact margin to the horse in front of him, same exact kind of fractions being put up. They went a little quicker here. Obviously, we're going a longer distance, but all things considered, this is exactly where he needs to be in the early stages of a race. It's where he's clearly like to put himself, and he's coasting along. They're rationing it out, the speed. You'll see how well the speed holds up in this race between that top 3 and into the far turn. He starts to make a bit of a move, and then ultimately, once again, Epicenter just clearly better than him on the day. But you have to just be impressed once more with Pioneer of Medina's effort to really stick in there and run a big race. He's being asked here once again. Zozos is also being called upon. What I don't like about this is that Pioneer of Medina doesn't fully shake down Zozos here because he was equal with him, and then he does kind of battle with him down the stretch, but never gets past. Epicenter says goodbye. Pioneer of Medina, he's digging in. Tyler Gaffleon's really getting as much as he can, and he's doing that same thing he showed in those last few starts. A real good battling ability, fighting on, trying to stick in there. Hops on the wrong lead briefly, not sure if he was tired or not, but nevertheless gets outrun by that top 2, crosses the line third. So at that point, we're sitting at 25 points. So at this point, Pioneer Medina, 25 points. He's got 5 from the Risen Star, 20 from the third in the Louisiana Derby, and that put him on the cusp for a very long time. But he finally sneaks in, and he finally makes his way to the Kentucky Derby thanks to a couple defections. He's been consistent, and he is improving. We'll dive into that more. It's not the most unreasonable horse in this year's race, but he does have to keep getting better. He'll be ridden by Joe Bravo in this year's Kentucky Derby, obviously a fan favorite for all the right reasons. He often puts on a good ride. He's been based out in California for a while now, probably the past year or so, but nevertheless putting on good rides. And he was third on a Fletcher trained horse back in 2014, Danza. He gave an excellent ride that day, just encountered some traffic troubles that weren't his own caused, but at the end of the day, has ridden well in the Kentucky Derby for this trainer before. Pioneer of Medina. When I'm talking about that improvement, I'm really talking about those figures. He went from really low numbers, his 2 losses to start his career, and then the maiden win was actually worse on all metrics than his in the money finish 2-back that he lost in that Tapeta maiden effort at Gulfstream. So his only career win prior to going to Fairgrounds was actually one of the weaker races he's ever run. But then he goes to Fairgrounds, puts up an 80 buyer, really good, and then 2 mid 90s from the Derby preps. That's a lot better than even some prep winners on this year's trail, especially when you look at the dirt numbers. So all things considered, not terrible on the numbers, and he's been consistent hitting the board, has those good battle qualities, and of course he exits a key prep in the Risen Star. His run there was great, especially when you look at who all was in that race and who he finished in front of. Tawny Port and Slowdown Andy, who he battled with, Smile Happy and Zandon, who got the run on him, Epicenter, sure. But those are things that he can maybe turn the tables on. We know he can hang with these levels of horses. The cons are he was well beaten with no excuses in 2 graded stake starts. He sat the perfect trip, wasn't able to get the job done, was clearly outrun by Epicenter. So how do you really give it to him? I know Epicenter probably had a favorable trip in at least one of those races, that being the Risen Star, but he wasn't able to put him entirely away, and that wasn't a good thing. And obviously, finishing behind 2 other Derby starters in your final prep, not great either. And also, I've talked about how good he has been at putting himself in the right position early on in races. I've loved that about him. But with the amount of horses that want to sit the trip he wants to sit in this year's Kentucky Derby, which is maybe not be on the lead, but be third, fourth, or fifth in the early stages, there's a lot of those. And you'll hear us talk about that in our full field preview. You've heard me talk about it with a couple other horses to this point. For this guy, I think he might be at a tactical disadvantage because if he doesn't beat everybody to that spot, especially with the post position that he might have, that could be his undoing, and that's obviously not a very good thing. So listen, he can hang with him. I said that. He can absolutely hang with them because he showed it in the Risen Star. And he's got every chance in the world to run better than one might expect. I mean, he's 19th horse in the Kentucky Derby, but obviously that doesn't relate to talent. However, based off that narrative, you might think, oh, he's got no chance. Listen, he could run a fine race in here, but I just don't know if he's one that really is a win contender or one that could make you any money in exotics or something along those lines. So he's a nice horse. He's got talent. He wouldn't be here if he wasn't, because Todd Pletcher wouldn't run anything in the Kentucky Derby, and he's ran against some good horses. But I just think he might be a cut below. That's all I have for you guys on this Kentucky Derby profile. We'll see you next time here on Racing Rundown.